You're listening to the Sketchnote Army Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rohde, the author of the Sketchnote Handbook and the Sketchnote Workbook, and this is the podcast where I chat with sketchnoters and visual thinkers and try to understand what makes them tick. This season of the Sketchnote Army Podcast is presented to you by the Sketchnote Handbook's 10th birthday, and we're giving you the gifts. Save 50% when you buy any two of the Sketchnote Handbook, the Sketchnote Workbook, or the Sketchnote Handbook video together as a set. Offer applies to both the print and ebook editions of the books. Use discount code HAPPY10 at checkout to apply savings. That's HAPPY10. For details on this offer, visit rodesign.com/happy10. That's rodesign.com/happy10. Offer ends December 31st, 2022, so buy yours today. And now, on with the show. Hey everyone, it's Mike, and I'm here with Hermen Lutje Berenbroek. Hermen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Mike. And how are you?
I'm doing good. It's exciting to have you on the show and to hear about all the great things that are going on in your life, and hopefully to introduce you to some people who may not know who you are. I mean, there's so many people now in the visual thinking space. The joy for me is people that I know maybe don't connect with another community, and introducing them. And then that community, like discovering this new person. It's like Christmas morning, you get to open a new present and find out about a new cool person. So I'm really glad to have you on. And I think the community is really going to love hearing from you and about your story and what you're up to. So the first question I have for you is, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yes, thank you. So my name is Hermen. I'm a design strategist, and I'm from the Netherlands, in a city nearby Amsterdam. I have my own company called Artificer, so I'm an independent design strategist. And I work for companies in the Netherlands and abroad. So that's who I am and what I do.
Great. And I'm always curious, like my favorite part of the show, one of my favorite parts, is the origin story question. So I'm really curious, like from when you were a little kid going to grade school, tell us your story. Like, how did you end up being a design strategist? Because it's not really an option. Like, what are you going to do when you grow up? You don't say design strategist. You say, fireman or policeman or whatever, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up in a garage, and as a kid, I really wanted to become a race car driver, to be honest. But as you notice, I didn't went in that direction. But growing up in a garage, I was always surrounded with, cars and technology, but also with, people trying to fix technology. And they used many tools, but also many visuals to understand this technology. So I was always very interested in how they were explaining technology, like car parts and elements of a car. As a kid, I used to draw also a lot to explore these things around me. And that's how I actually got started with drawing and visualizing complexity. Then I started, I went to art school, and I really loved art school. I feel like I'm a creative person, and there's many things for me to explore and to create. But what I also learned at art school is that I also really like to have boundaries in creativity. And I really like to find these boundaries in creating something for people. So at art school, I started studying visual communication and interaction design. And that made me really focus on users and on people. And I think for me, I realized that those two elements, like growing up between, complex surroundings and having this people focus, that's kind of like the foundation of what I do today. My work is always focusing on people, having people understand complex information, but always do it with people in mind.
That's really cool. And I would imagine that the opportunities just keep on growing because our world is not getting simpler. It's getting more complicated and
Yes.
complex. And people are involved at every part of it. So there needs to be someone to explain in a more simple or maybe a metaphorical way what that means or how these fit together or why this thing that you don't think relates has an impact over here on this thing, and seeing the connection, right? Revealing the connection maybe is part of what you're doing.
Yes, yes. And what I like doing is, since I come from art school, but I work, in the business world, in a business environment. I really like to use this kind of outside perspective and
Mm.
also this people focused. How can I explain this? This focus on people. I like to use that in my work to help people visualize complex information and
Mm.
also ask the right questions, because I think being an outsider kind of gives me a free card to ask
Yeah.
the questions nobody in the room dares to ask. I often feel like when I'm asking these questions, there are more people who actually would like to know, but they don't dare to ask because they're expected to already know these kind of things.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, the drawing became also really a great tool to listen to people and to
Mm.
better understand them.
Mm.
And by doing so, I help them better understand themselves, but also have them all aligned around, whatever they're working on.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine. I've seen this happen in my own experience where by drawing what someone's saying, you're actually revealing what they're thinking, and they may not even make those connections as they're saying it, as it's coming out of their head. To see it visualized can be a real eye-opening experience for someone. Do you have any
Yeah,
stories about
yeah.
that where that's happened in a session where you've been facilitating or helping?
Um, so I think it's always eye-opening for people when you start visualizing information.
Yeah. Yeah.
The workshops I design and facilitate, I also design them in such a way that so I empower people to be able to provide their input separately, but also to get to a joint and aligned end product. So very often during these workshops, there's a moment where the elephant in the room
Yeah.
starts to make an entrance. Um, and what I really like about drawing is that it, it enables people to address the elephant in the room much easier. If you would be in a meeting and if you would come across something which is hard for you to talk about, it's getting much more personal if you're just using words. But if
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the room and I help people get all the information on the walls, it's getting much more abstract for people. So
Mm.
instead of saying like I think this, they can point to something and address it like that.
Mm.
So I think in every workshop there's a moment where there's an aha moment or something comes up which wouldn't have came up if we would have just been using words.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear. Um, Tell us a little bit about what's some of the work. So you kind of explain what you do. What's some of the work coming up for you that gets you excited that you are really looking forward to in the near future?
Yes. I'm really excited about this hybrid way of working. I love traveling, and I also used to travel a lot for my work. Also, at my previous before I was Artificer in 2019, I worked at Explain, the design consultancy in Portland. I worked at the Amsterdam office, but I used to travel a lot with them. Um, I still do projects abroad, but what I really like is that today it became much more easier to do hybrid projects where you have online workshops, where you collaborate mostly online. So it became much easier to collaborate with people from all over the world, which I'm really enjoying. It makes the I really like personal contact. I'm also like a people person,
Yeah.
but I'm also really enjoying that. It's much easier to meet people from all over the world
That's really
and learn
great.
from each other.
That's great. I think hybrid is going to be here for a while, and I think it's something we'll have to deal with. So I think you're in a great space, and we need you. because companies are trying to figure out what it means and how does it work and where does it fit and where do we do it. Like there's so many questions around how this mess sort of settles in, and I'm sure it's going to vary based on country and culture and location, and there's all these opportunities. So that's pretty cool that you are interested and involved in that. So
Yes.
I'm really curious. So I know that you've recently done a course, and this is what sort of reminded me to have you on. And I think the course is really aligned well for people that listen or watch the show. So talk to us about how did this course come to be? What was it like to make it? And then what has been the response? I'm kind of curious about those three areas specifically.
Yeah. Yes. So I'd love to tell you all about it. I really like talking about my work, so it's easy for me. So I started creating this course with Domestika in the end of 2021, and I started thinking about what kind of course. Of course, we were in touch, and we decided to do this course about visual thinking. But then, visual thinking can be a big subject.
Yeah.
I started thinking like, how can I design a course, and what do I want the course to be? So I decided that I wanted this course to be super accessible for people all over the world, since Domestika is an online platform for people globally. I wanted to focus also on creating a course which is really simple and easy to follow, and you don't need many tools to follow this course. So I designed this course so people can just join with a piece of paper and a pen and a mobile phone to take pictures once in a while of their work, if they're interested in uploading their work. But separately from that, I also wanted to take this opportunity because I felt like Domestika is really a huge platform. They have, I believe, around 9 million users globally.
Wow.
Yes, they're not all following my course, but they also have many teachers online. But I also felt personally it's for me an opportunity to do something more with visual thinking and to put visual thinking out there as a tool for people to communicate their ideas. So that was kind of like the second target I created for myself in designing this course. I wanted to provide people all over the world with a simple tool so they can better explain their ideas. Also with my idea behind this is that we're living in a world, and I think we might be in much need of creativity, and there are many things for us to fix. So if this course can help people, only one step in their own journey in getting their ideas towards reality, I think that would be really, worth it. So that was the designing of the course.
Got it. Cool.
Then creating the course. So I went after 3 months of preparation and getting all the content ready. We did the recordings in Madrid in the Domestika studio, which was it was also really a nice adventure to be in their studios. They're super professional. So many people are involved in creating this course. So during the first 3 months, I felt like it's my course. I'm doing this visual thinking course. But then I realized while I was at the studio, like how many people put their creativity and their talent into this course. So at that moment, it became our course. And I felt like, hey, this is not just me who is creating this course. There are many more people involved in this. So that was also really exciting to do. And then it has been online since March, around March. It launched. And then for me, it started like a whole new adventure, because then suddenly I became like an online teacher. So since then, now I have over 1,000 students in the course. And yes, and it's really exciting. I'm really enjoying this because I get to meet people from all over the world. And it's also really nice to see that they're really uploading their ideas. And also really using this course to communicate their own ideas. So it has been. So in one way, I'm a teacher, but on the other way, we're also like a community, and we're all inspiring each other. And I'm also learning from the students in the course. So I'm really enjoying it.
Wow, that's really great. That's a great story. So you have 1,000 students. You only have 8,900,000 more to go.
Yes, exactly.
Which is kind of cool, right? Because I think so. I don't know a lot about Domestika. What I will say about Domestika is when I've seen that the courses promoted, they look really good. Like the quality of the teachers, they're people I've heard of, or if they're people I've not heard of, like what they're working on seems really good. The little samples I see, like the lighting is good, and like everything is really high quality. So that's a really good, I think, important for you, I'd think, to make sure the quality is good, right?
Yes, definitely. And before, in the process of designing the course, I already experienced how, how professional they are, and by the kind of questions, the kind of input they need. Like the set has been designed by a set designer, and I created kind of like a mood board for the set designers, so they knew what would fit with me in my work. But it's their design, and also like the people who did the lights in the studio, the camera people, the producer, everything was very well organized, and also made it really a nice experience.
Yeah, and you think about it too. If you think about production, because I've done this with my book, I did video with a friend, and it was a lot of work. So, and that was just one person. So I can imagine having a whole team and sets would have been really great. But you think about it, like the part that you shoot, like the live part where you show up and you sit at a desk or you draw, whatever you do, the part where they record it is just half of the process, right? Because once they've got the recording, then there's production and editing and overlays and all the other things to like bring it to a finished course that you have to also consider. That in some ways, you're not day to day with them. They're asking you questions. What do you think of this? Or how do you like that? Or how should we do this kind of questions? But they're kind of, now it's in the system, right? Along the line of that is, so when you got to see the finished course, like, did you see it along the process, or was it revealed to you at the end? And what was your reaction when you saw your own course? Like, it must have been exciting, right?
Yes, it was super exciting. At the time, I was on a project in Kenya, so I wasn't aware it was going to be launched in that week. So I was abroad, and suddenly I got a message like, "Your course has just been launched." I'm like, at home, in a place where I don't even have that much internet all the time. So that was, but still, it was of course super exciting. Then, to be honest, it took me a while to be able to look at myself, because I was there for a week in the studio, and I haven't seen the material until it was launched, and I felt pretty uncomfortable looking at myself, and this was the first time I was in the studio, recording a course like this. I've facilitated many workshops. I always feel comfortable with people, but I learned a lot during that week, and it was really a nice experience. But I feel like, that's probably why it took me quite some time before I could even look at my own course.
Yeah, I think that's really common. Like, I hear this, people who do podcasts, hearing their own voice is weird at first. When you do recorded stuff, seeing yourself on camera is weird at first. But I think it's just a reaction to it's unusual. Like, when do you ever listen or see yourself, right? You just are in a room with people, and you just are around your family and your friends, and you just exist. You don't think about that stuff. And so it's sort of a reflection back to say, oh, is that really what I'm like? Do I really have those body motions, or is that the way my voice sounds? Like, it's just a strange experience.
Yeah, exactly. And also because I think normally for this course, I had created this whole structure, which, with all the steps and all the details I wanted to put in a course. Mm-hmm. So I think during a workshop, it's more like, and just like in this call, we're more improvising and into action. But there, I'm just interacting with the camera and my producer, of course, and the team. But it felt much more like I was talking to the camera. That was what I was actually doing also. And I wanted to make sure that I would be addressing all the points which I prepared. So it felt less natural, and it took me a while to. I felt like by the end on Friday of shooting the course, I felt like finally I'm I'm getting this and getting into it. But then of course it's the end of the course.
Yeah, I've felt that way as well, so I can relate to that. Last question about the course is, so how did you feel about, I assume you were doing drawing, and either they had a camera hanging over the desk, or maybe you used your iPad and they recorded from that. What did you choose? Was it analog and digital? And how did you feel that part came out from your perspective?
Yeah, so they had a camera above me.
Okay.
And for specific parts, I would just draw on paper on my desk. And I noticed that when I started doing that kind of brought back, like, I was less nervous, and it was much easier for me just to I felt in my element. I think many of us might relate to that. It was also intentionally, because I wanted people to be able to take this course without owning an iPad or owning technology.
Yep.
But that being said, the end of the course, as some extra materials, I did review several apps, drawing apps, also online collaboration apps. So there's some technology, but it was more like additional. So
I see, not core
necessary to
the course. Yeah. Got it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. Well, we will definitely have a link in the show notes to the course, and so that you can go check it out if you're listening or watching. It looked really cool. I was super excited when I saw it come on LinkedIn. I was liking it whenever you posted it and commenting, and I was just super excited. I'm a believer in the visual thinking space. So anytime anybody does courses or books or anything to encourage, that's like, I'll be your biggest cheerleader, because I believe it forwards. We have so much work to do, like to fight over whose course is cooler. Like, who cares? Like, your course is going to reach the people it will reach, and if I do something, it will reach different people. And I think, again, there's so much to be done. There's no reason to fight about this stuff.
No, exactly, and I'm super happy, and thank you for promoting also my course. But I also want to say that now I'm calling it my course, but I feel like I've learned so much from also reading your book, from the people I have worked with. There are so many people who have inspired me, so I also don't feel like I own. In that sense, it's also not my course. It's something, we all inspire each other, and I feel more like I'm part of this. Then I don't own it.
I know that Seth Godin, I'm a fan of Seth, he says once you finish the book and it releases to the world, it doesn't belong to you anymore, right? Because the people that use it own it. So I think the same thing around a course as well would be true, right? Yeah, that's really interesting. This episode of the Sketchnote Army Podcast is brought to you by Concepts, an infinite canvas sketching app built for tablets with a stylus, like the iPad Pro, Microsoft Surface, and Samsung Galaxy Tab. Concepts Infinite Canvas lets you spread out and sketch in any direction. Everything you draw in Concepts is a flexible vector, so you can move your notes around the canvas or change their color, tool, or size with a simple gesture. Search Concepts in your favorite app store for infinite, flexible sketching. What I want to do now is I'm going to shift into, you sort of hinted at it a little bit at the end of the course. You said you did some reviews and showed some different things. I'm curious about your tools and just your favorite tools. So that can be pens or pencils, notebooks and paper. If you're using digital, which I'm pretty sure you do, like, is there an app that you prefer that you like? Or maybe there's, a couple of them that you use for different things. I would love to hear all that stuff. Let's start with analog. And then once you finish with that, then you can shift into digital.
So, on one way, I'm very easy with tools. I can draw with anything. I draw on many different kind of papers. I have tons of notebooks, and they're all different brands, and some of them I really like, but I'm not very how can I say
Picky?
I don't have a exactly picky. That was the right word. However, during workshops, I'm really picky with the kind of material I use, because I feel like whenever I'm putting posters on the wall, I don't want them to bleed through when I'm drawing on it. So I only use, I don't know, I don't want to put the brand up.
Oh, you can definitely.
Brand for posters.
Yeah, definitely. You can do brands.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the 3M Post-its, because they glue. You can take them off, glue them again, and so I'm super picky about that during workshops.
Yeah.
I was once in a workshop where the clients provided us with really cheap sticky notes, and then halfway during the workshop, all the sticky notes would fall off, and we would be like, "Yeah,
where do they go?" Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we just organized all this information, and suddenly, done. So then I used to work with Sharpies, and I recently started to buy the Neuland markers, and I have to say I'm really impressed with them. I'm impressed because they are super black, like the contrast is really great. And what I also really like is you can choose exact the markers which you use a lot, and they just have the right markers for visual thinking, I believe.
Meant for it, yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. So I'm really liking them. What I also like is that they provide you also with the materials. So when I'm running training workshops in visual thinking, they also enable me to kind of create like this goodie bag, so I can just provide people with just the tools they need. I like that they're refillable, so I don't have to throw them away when I'm done with them. So that's something, I'm really starting to like. Then the apps, I use a lot of Procreate, but I really like Procreate to create sketches and to create concepts, visual concepts. But I usually also draw a lot during any conversation I have. So I just started using Notability, because what I don't like in Procreate is that it doesn't help me organize my notes. So in the end, I'm just having tons and tons of drawings, and I don't know where they belong to which clients, and that's getting really messy. So Notability I really enjoy, because that enables me to draw on my iPad. I can open it up on my desktop. It syncs automatically, and for me, I don't need much. I don't need many specific tools. So if I can just draw, use yellow to highlight elements and some gray for shadows, I'm fine. So that's something I'm enjoying. I like the whiteboarding tools. So I like Mural. I like Miro. I also enjoy drawing in Miro a lot. I think that also does a really great job in drawing. And then there's this tool called, it's a tool I use on my iPad, which is called Flip a Clip. And in Flip a Clip, you can create stop motion animations based on drawing. And I also really love that, because it's so easy to use, and for me it's just giving me the freedom to integrate time into my drawings, and it's really adding another dimension to my work. So I'm really enjoying that as well.
Well, that's a great tool set. I agree with you. I just came back from a project where I took Neuland. I had Neuland markers shipped there, and they worked so well. Right, I had to drop on paper that was attached to a whiteboard, and they didn't bleed. The color was really black. The blacks are black, and the colors are bright, and it drew people over. I also will only buy 3M stickies because I've had the same detaching sticky situation happen to me, and I will never have that happen again. So, yeah, I think those are great tool. It's a great tool set. So you draw a lot with the iPad. Do you happen to carry like a notebook and pen with you, or is the iPad and Notability kind of taken that place for you?
And both. So I draw a lot on my iPad, and for me it has kind of, I think it has replaced my physical notebooks, but I still draw a lot. Actually, I remember when meeting you in 2015 in Portland, you had this great leather notebook with you,
Yeah.
and when I left Explain, they just gave me a similar
Oh, nice.
one
Yeah.
as you were
It's the
carrying then.
the traveler's notebook.
So
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So this is one of the notebooks I use. Yeah, and then I have like those small. Let's see. I have small notebooks which I like because I can put them in my pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
At Explain, we had these as gifts for clients. So I really enjoyed these, and because I can just always have them with me. I like drawing on paper also a lot instead of using my iPad, because when I'm in a situation and just sitting with a person and we're starting to explore something, it's so powerful just to grab a piece of paper and start drawing,
Yeah.
and to have a more and deepen the conversation just with a piece of paper and a pen.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about paper, is that it's so accessible and it's so almost always there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good foundational element that it's hard to go away from in some cases, for sure.
Yeah,
That's a great tool set. And that's really interesting too, the angle that you think about moving to Notability, because it's designed for note taking. Now, of course, you can type in there as well. I think there's like a universe of 3 or 4 of these very popular note taking tools, and I think maybe sketchnoters need to explore these note taking tools. I know some people do. I've played with them a little bit for presentation because I like to draw in my presentation. And I've never really considered, like, maybe I should consider a note-taking tool for sketching, right? Especially if you don't need fancy tools. More from the organizational perspective, like I can have a notebook for this customer and that customer, and all their stuff goes in there. I use paper by WeTransfer for that, and that works pretty well.
Okay.
But there could be probably advantages to explore, a note-taking tool that's intended for note-taking and notebooks and all. You can bring images in and all this other stuff, which maybe for sketchnoting could be a good frontier for people to explore, possibly.
Yes. I think that would be super helpful, because it's kind of like, for me, it's this area in between. So there are tools for you to draw and make really beautiful drawings.
Yeah.
And then there are tools which are more focused on textual note taking.
Yeah.
And I think there's kind of like an area in between which can still be filled better.
Interesting. Cool. Well, this is the point in the podcast where I love to have my guests give 3 tips. You can give more than 3 if you wish. We ask for 3 that you might suggest. And the way I frame it is, imagine there's someone listening or watching who's into visual note-taking or visual thinking or visual something. They're excited about it, but they feel like they've reached a plateau. Maybe they're just not as excited as they were at first. What would be 3 things you might tell someone to inspire and sort of start to climb again and to start to improve what they're doing?
So for people who are starting, I would say, because I still come across many people who I consider their drawings as really great, but they feel insecure. And I feel it's such a pity, because if your people are not so insecure about their handwriting, for example, and I think they shouldn't see drawing that much as something to create beauty, but more like purely as a communication tool, and trust on the. My tip would be like, trust the human power of the power of the human brain, and our brains will understand whatever you're trying to communicate in your drawings, and just have confidence in that. So that would be a tip for people who are just starting it, or who feel not always so confident. The other tip, this is especially when you're drawing a lot on paper, it's to embrace your mistakes. I enjoy drawing on paper is because when you make a mistake, you cannot undo it. You have to either try to hide it, or but often I notice that creating these mistakes make me, and then having to hide them, they create situations, they add serendipity into my work, and I have to be creative around it. And sometimes out of mistakes come new ideas. So I think that's another tip. I think just embrace your mistakes and see if you can learn from them and maybe integrate them also into your solutions. Then the other one, if you're using visual thinking and if you're getting more comfortable in doing it, I would really not advise, because it sounds so, it's up to people themselves, of course, but
right.
I like to use the drawing in conversations to understand the other person. And I think exploring that as a tool, like how can you use drawing and visual thinking not for your personal note-taking, but to help to deepen a conversation and to better understand each other. I think that's a very beautiful addition to the ability of drawing.
It's almost like listening to what someone's saying and drawing it out, and they see it forming on the page, and then you say, "Well, here's what I believe, or here's what I think," and you draw your thing, and you see how do these things relate? What are these? Maybe there's different perspectives, and it's all right on the page, so you both can see it together.
Yes, exactly, and I think it's also like I was I was giving a visual thinking training, and I always explain the basic elements of how you can easily draw, what are the basic shapes, and then I ask people like, okay, give me an object and I will draw it for you using these shapes. And very often people start shouting animals, and animals are something I'm not very good at drawing. But so somebody said like, "Oh, draw a cow," and I was like, "Shit, the cow seems so basic, but how actually should I be?" I'm drawing often in the business world, compliance or a cow. So I felt a little bit like I'm giving this training in drawing, and I had to figure out on the spot, like, how should I be drawing a cow?
Yeah.
So, and then I noticed that I started asking questions like, okay, so I started telling them like, okay, you have to help me. What is the shape of a cow? And then I realized this is exactly how it's meant to be. It's about having this conversation. They were shouting like a cow has, they started shouting all the elements of what they considered a cow. So I think with kind of embracing also that sometimes you don't know something, that can be a really powerful element also to use while you're visualizing complex information or cows.
Yeah, I mean, in that instance that you cited, you went from demonstrating your prowess at drawing cows, which you didn't have, and you switched into, let's collaborate and draw a cow together. What does a cow have? Oh, it has horns. It has an udder. The body is kind of square. It has 4 legs, whatever. It has spots, right? And then now you're sort of engaging the audience in this process, and they can see like, okay, you can do this. And look how Hermen is drawing with these basic shapes, like you said. They're taking my words, and my words are being turned into images. So maybe I can do this, right? You're sort of inviting them to step in. And they don't even know it, right? Exactly. They just think they're participating, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that they also realize that on that moment how powerful this the visual tool is.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's really cool.
That it's really about co-creation and also getting alignment in this case of what a cow looks like. But then during the workshop when we explored other elements, I think every time when you start drawing something, you just get deeper into the meaning of something, and also opening up discussions about how people think different about specific words or specific situations or whatever you're trying to visualize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Those are 3 great tips, Hermen. Thank you so much. So now the question is, how do we find you? What are the best places to find you? Website, social media, course?
Yes, so I have my own website, which is artificer.com. Then I have which is online at Domestika. I will provide you with the link to point you to the course.
Yep.
I'm on Instagram and I'm on LinkedIn also.
Okay.
I'm most active on LinkedIn and Instagram. I do have a Twitter account, but I'm not such I don't post that many posts on Twitter.
No, I find the same for me. It seems like LinkedIn and Instagram seem to be where my energies are going now as well. So we'll make sure and get those links in the show notes so you can go check out all those things for Hermen. And go say hello. I love it when people jump out and say hello to our guests and make new connections, and that's what it's all about, to build the community bit by bit. So
yes,
well,
definitely. I'm really open to that, and I would love to. I love connecting to people and meeting people. So
great.
Yes, it would be my pleasure.
Well, that's really good. Thank you so much, Hermen, for being on the show, for sharing your experience with the course and your work and your perspective, and giving us encouragement with your tips. It's just been a lot of fun to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me on the show, Mike. I really enjoyed it, and I feel really honored also to be here. So thank you.
Well, great. And for everyone who's listening or watching, this will wrap another episode of the Sketchnote Army Podcast. Till next time, talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. The Sketchnote Army Podcast was created by me, Mike Rohde, and brought to you by Rohdesign Studios. It's produced and edited by Alec Polianis of AMP Creative Studios. The theme music was created by John Schiedermeyer. To support the creation of this show, I invite you to buy one of my books, the Sketchnote Handbook or the Sketchnote Workbook. You can find the books on Amazon, or go to peachpit.com and use the code ROHDE40 for 40% off. Please share this podcast with other visual thinking friends, and be sure to leave a nice rating on iTunes or your favorite podcast listening app so others can find the show.